Hello and welcome to Live Innovating, your space for change. Today we're going to answer the following question. What is the difference between creating and innovating? Is there really a difference? Yes, there is. In reality, innovating is much more than creating. Creating is a component of innovation. But in addition to creating, you also have to invent. And after inventing, you then must generate value. Let's explain each one of them. When you create, you're actually visualizing something, a written sketch, a vision of what you want to achieve. For example, you might say, what if I could transmit messages remotely without any physical connection? That could be a creation, but for it to become innovation, you'd need to have the device and then you'd have to sell it. And after selling it, you'd have to generate value for both the client and yourself. That's when it would become innovation. So following the example of our friend, the cell phone, which we use daily, we might ask, who created the cell phone? Who invented it? Who innovated? Let's first think about the early inventors of mobile telephony. In the year 1908, Nathan Stubblefield was the first person to patent a mobile phone. Evidently, as you can see in the image, it was very large and very difficult to transport. In fact, unfortunately, it was not a commercial success. Then, in Russia, in the year 1957, Leonid Kupranovich became the first Russian and the second person globally to patent a mobile phone. In fact, as you can see here, he even managed to create a quite small device, but he also couldn't achieve commercial success. Now let's pause for a moment. They invented two mobile phones, but were they truly the original creators of the concept? Now if you ask the people at Motorola today who are widely recognized as the true innovators of the mobile phone device, they themselves openly admit that they drew their primary inspiration from watching Star Trek. Do you recall that particular series? Yes, Star Trek. Gene Roddenberry was the creator of Star Trek, and in 1966, the first episodes already featured a person using a mobile phone. So, was he the creator of the cell phone? Was he the inventor? Was he the innovator? In reality, he was a crucial link, and for many, he was the true inspiration. But when we delve deeper into the history of Gene Roddenberry, we come to realize that in his childhood, he read a great writer, Edward Homer Smith. He wrote some very famous fiction stories in his time called Skylark. These stories spoke of space travel, of a series of visions regarding what it would be like to live outside the planet in the future. Well, when you analyze these writings, a cell phone appeared there that was on a wrist, just like a watch. So, who was the person responsible for creating the mobile phone? Was it Gene Roddenberry, perhaps, when he was showcasing it in his television series? Was Mr. Smith in his series of fictional writings from the 1920s in Skylark? In reality, defining that isn't as important as recognizing at this very moment that the innovation in question had to extend much further to truly become what it was meant to be genuinely considered a true and complete innovation. And it was back in the year of 1973 when Martin Cooper, while strolling through the bustling streets of New York City, precisely unveiled the very first mobile telephone that went on to achieve significant commercial success and truly generated that immensely important value which allowed it to be fully justified as a true innovation. That is to say, Motorola didn't necessarily visualize or create or conceive it, but rather was the one who truly managed to generate the value. So innovation involves these three crucial links, and it continues to do so today. In other words, the world of innovation is constantly flowing. Creations transition to a stage of invention, and from there, they move on to a stage of innovation. And this process, quite frequently, extends over many, many years, much like what we observe with the evolution of mobile phones. And particularly at this moment, as we clearly perceive in the image displayed, it also brings forth for us this future projection, the exciting prospect of flying cars. Yes, flying cars are already arriving for all of us who live, quote-unquote, enjoy the traffic of our cities. Flying cars are already entering a final stage to generate value. But when one analyzes history, one realizes that flying cars were actually envisioned a long time ago. In fact, in the movie Metropolis, presented by the great filmmaker Fritz Lang. In this film, as you can clearly see, he presented in the year 1927 this magnificent film where one can visualize towering skyscrapers and automobiles flying through the air and aerial trains moving from one side to the other. A vision that Henry Ford himself very likely encountered later on. Henry Ford, in the year 1928, unveiled his ambitious flying car project, which he famously called the Sky Flivver. But as we all know, it ultimately did not achieve commercial success. That is to say, Henry Ford, the renowned inventor of automobiles, was quite possibly inspired by Fritz Lang's iconic film, Metropolis. He then introduced this particular vision of a flying automobile, but regrettably, it ultimately failed to achieve any commercial success. Consequently, it never truly evolved into a genuine innovation. Currently, from what I've been able to review, and as you'll see at the bottom of this video, there's a series of projects. I found 11, but there are certainly more of flying cars that are about to come to market. You have the Aeromobile 4.0, the PAL V, the TFX, the Maverick LSA, the Airbus, Uber's flying taxi project, the Aero X. In fact, there's a research study you can also find a link to at the bottom regarding the market projection for flying cars in Europe and the United States. Soon, flying cars will become major innovations. I hope that in this brief summary, we have been able to understand the difference between creating and innovating, and to grasp that innovation goes much further. I want to thank you for the time you dedicated to watching this first micro program of Living Innovating. This is just the beginning. Until next time,